Hey guys, Stealth here. Today I'm reviewing a quick strike force. This deck was sent in via my website, and the person who sent it in says I very much enjoy using this deck as a quick strike force, pushing infantry and AT/AA vehicles into choke points with strong air assets to support. I want to know if you can improve this deck and where you could think it could be used more effectively for its intended goal. So we're going AT/AA hunting, so anti-tank, anti-air, and it seems like this deck is already pretty well set up for that, so let's get into it. I don't really have to spend long at having a look at the vehicles in the logistics tab. We got a TACCOM Humvee, Hammett, Humvee, again command vehicle. I think this is enough command vehicles, maybe more than enough. You don't always need to have this command infantry, so if you want to free up some slots and some activation points, you could say, well, I'm gonna just delete this one, stick to the Humvee and spend my other points somewhere else. So that's something that you could do in this deck. But since he wants to hold choke points, which are usually heavily contested, a CV might not be safe there, while command infantry might, so let's just keep it in for now. Next, in the Infantry tab, he has two cards of Light Rifleman 90 at the highest veterancy, veteran. They brought in a Humvee. Now, unfortunately, this is the only transport that they have. I would like to have a bit of diversity here, so that you can bring in one card of these Light Riflemen in, for example, a chopper. But since it's a motorized deck, this is the only thing that they're getting. It is a decent unit, the Light Rifleman, but you lack a bit of the AT power. Yes, you do get the standoff of 1925, but you lack 4 points of anti-tank capability of AP power. So not only that, but they're also twice the price of the standard Rifleman 90. And with that, I think that in the vehicle tab you'll also have quite some anti-tank capability. So in here, I would like to suggest going with some more Riflemen. The problem though that with this deck is that you don't have enough Humvees. So we're gonna have to free up some Humvees somewhere else, seeing as he already used 3 of them here, to make sure that we can deploy those Humvees somewhere else. So there was a Humvee command vehicle here. We can deploy those in an M35. So let's go ahead and do that. I know that the M35 isn't a great vehicle, but it'll still get the guys to the destination. So that frees us up to use one more card of Rifleman, and let's put those at the highest veterancy as well. Also, when I got this deck there were only 56 activation points in there, so now 58. And we can still deploy some more infantry, if it wasn't for the fact that we're pretty much completely out of vehicles. Now, there is still the availability of Delta Force, so let's see if we can spend these 2 activation points somewhere else before putting them into infantry. I think that he has a pretty low availability of stingers, especially if he wants to do an AA setup at a choke point. Then I think that having 4 stingers in here is a bit light. Now, stingers themselves already have a 70% base accuracy, so you don't really need any veterancy buffs. So for the stingers I would go with 7 at hardened. Moving on to support. He has Avengers, Chaparrals, Pivats, Piphawks and Nalaves. If he really wants to go for a heavy AA setup, I think that the Patriot would be a good asset. But let's see how we can squeeze that into this deck somehow. He has one defense focused mostly on helicopters, and another one, and another one. So this is quite the high-end helicopter defense system. He also has 4 of these Eyehawks. Now, I don't know what kind of situation he's going to be using these in, whether it's a 10v10 or not. I'm going to assume it's a general-ish deck, which you use both in 10v10s and 2v2s, so they have to be able to do both. I think that this is way too much anti-helicopter defense. I know that the deck is set up for that, but still, there should be something that we can adjust here. Having 4 Chaparrals, unfortunately these are not the best Chaparrals, I believe. They only got 40% accuracy. The others got even less, so in this situation you might want to reconsider if you're actually gonna go with chaparrals, because Pivat's got a good range as well. Of course, it's still less than a chaparral. Let's just stick with the chaparral and the Pivats and delete the Avengers. That frees us up a couple command points, and in there we can deploy one card of 2 Patriots. So from short to long range, you use your Pivats and your chaparrals to go after helicopters at short to medium range. You got your Ihawks as long range anti-airplane defense, and you got your Patriots at extreme range. This can create a really good anti-air umbrella for your forces and for your allies' forces. Now, the US doesn't really have a lot of tanks in motorized, but they can be happy that they have any tanks at all. And keeping in mind again that he wants to do anti-tank capability at choke points. And it has to be a quick strike force, so it has to be fast and mobile. The AGS is definitely something that fills that role. It is not heavily armored, but it can deliver quite a punch, and it can deliver a lot of punches every minute. 13 rounds a minute, so I would definitely stick to this one. Then he has the Super M60. This one is at least a little better armored, has 55% accuracy and 15 AP power, so these guys can also be used effectively. Let's see if there's anything else that we could use here. The MBT-70 is always a favorite of mine because it comes also with an autocannon and an ATGM, although the ATGM isn't spectacular. So that is something that he could use. The Sheridan, I like the Sheridan personally, but more in World of Tanks than in Wargame Red Dragon. So let's just stick with this setup for now and see what he has in the other tabs. He has a ton of recon. Well, of course that is what you do in a motorized deck. Now again, the seals are being brought in Humvees. I want one more card of Humvees available, so we're not going to bring the seals in Humvees, but in V150s. This way they have a bit more armor. They do get a machine gun, although it's not spectacular. But at least we free up one more slot of Humvees. So 4 seals in the V150s. You can deploy 4 Rangers by helicopter, by Chinook. I agree with this, although I'm not sure that 4 Rangers would be enough. I use Rangers in a passive role, so that they don't actually get into a lot of conflicts. But if you want to use Rangers in an active role, having 4 of them might be better. In this case he also has 4 seals, which I think are going in for close quarter warfare. So these are going to be close quarter warfare in towns. That means that you need more Rangers to cover the rest of the battlefield. I know he has a lot of Bradleys and Lav Scouts and of course the helicopters, but I would go with 7 Rangers. Now the M3A1 CFV Bradley. You got 3 Bradleys in this option. You got the TOW Bradley, you got the I-TOW, and you got the TOW 2. If you really want to set up a choke point with high anti-tank warfare, so high anti-tank capability, I would go with the Bradley CFV. First off, I'm going to have to see what he has in here. Okay, we're definitely going to go with the CFV. Reason for that being is that this thing has better anti-tank weaponry than the Bradley CFV M3A1. This is the M3A2, and if you see these side by side, you're going to see that for 15 points you definitely get a lot better missiles. The rest of the platform is pretty much the same, except for the fact that the Bradley A2 has a bit more armor. And you get the same availability, 7 and 4 or 7 and 4. So we're going to go with this one because it has better anti-tank capability. And since that's what the guy is after, we're going to use these units. Next, he has 3 longbows, of course mandatory units in an American deck because they are amazing anti-tank warfare units. A couple of Kiowas. I'm not sure I would use another card of Kiowas, and if I would use them, I might not go with this one. The difference between the Kiowa Warriors or the Kiowas is that you got the base one for 50 points, it has very good optics. This one, it has exceptional optics, some rocket pods, and it flies a lot faster. And then you got the Kiowa Warrior for 100 points, which has Hellfires. Now Hellfires we don't need because we already got that capability on the Apache. In this situation, having exceptional optics is definitely something that's helpful. So let's just stick with this helicopter as he has set it up. Next he's using the Lav Scout, and this is something that he might be pushing up with a column that he's moving forward. So for example as an escort for all of those Humvees in the Infantry tab. Now this is a good option. Let's see if there are any better options in here. You could go with the ACAV line or the TTS. The problem is that these guys don't have very good accuracy, especially not on the move. Whereas the LAV Scout has 50% accuracy and 25% on the move. So let's just keep these guys in here because I don't really see an improvement in this area. Onto vehicles, where we find the LAV AT, Zippo, Combat and FSV. The LAV AT is definitely a very good anti-tank platform. 12 ITO missiles, 60% accuracy, 20 AP power. Combine that with 1 or 2 of the Bradleys we just put in, and you got a very deadly anti-tank force. So that thing's solid and that thing's staying. The Zippos, I really like to have those. The problem with these Zippos is that unlike tanks which can fire napalm, they are not heavily armored. So you could decide to go with 18 at hardened, because if these things take a hit, then they're going to die pretty much straight away. Whereas a napalm tank that gets hit might not die immediately. So that's why I'm going to go with 18 of these Zippos. Next he has 9 Comvats. These are of course very nice upgraded Bradleys, more or less. Some AP power, a very high accuracy and even good stabilizer. Nothing I would change here, keep these guys in. Next up he has the FSV, the Fire Support Vehicle. I'm not sure these things are warranted here, because he already got quite a bit of anti-vehicle capability and anti-infantry capability from the Comvats, and of course from the tanks that he has in there, especially those M8 AGS. So I personally would not go with the FSV, and I would deploy Humvees. These guys have a good accuracy, and if you just spread these guys out or pair them up with one set of Rangers, you can have a lot of anti-tank capability and cover pretty much the entire area. I did this once on Plungent Valley and it worked exceptionally well, because everywhere the enemy was deciding to push out with either infantry vehicles or tanks, they got wiped out by these Humvees. And also these things are very mobile, 90 kilometers per hour off-road, and that means that if they get hit or if they get detected, you can really quickly evac them. So that's why I'm going to go with these Humvee tows. Also, if you want to push through a choke point fast, if you want to do a push with the other Humvees in the infantry tab, this is the unit I would want to have with it, because it has a very hefty anti-tank capability. In helicopters we find 7 AH-1F Cobras, Apaches and 8 of those anti-helo helicopters, so anti-air helicopters I should say. Now these things are good, but I'm not sure having 8 of them is really necessary. If you want to have an anti-tank capability, he already has the Cobra F, which has ITOs. You got the Apache, which has Hellfires. You could say that the DAP would also be a worthy addition to this deck. Especially the twin autocannon are helpful with the anti-infantry capability. And with the AA setup that he has, I think that he doesn't need 2 cards of these OH-58CS. So instead we're going to go with 1 card less of those. So I'm a bit conflicted between getting the DAP or the Little Bird. They're completely different roles, but I think that he already has quite a bit of anti-tank capability, so he might not really need the DAP. Whereas Little Birds I found are very good at taking down infantry. And he does have the Comvats for that and his own infantry, but otherwise not that much. Yeah, of course the Bradleys in the vehicle tab. And he has the FSV Scouts. Yeah, we're just going to go with the DAP. We're going to go with 3 of those. Then he has 4 air units. He has a Raven, Seaplane, a Nighthawk, an air superiority fighter, and a Napalmer. The thing I'm missing here is an anti-tank sniper. So I know that he has a lot of anti-tank warfare already in his deck. But having an anti-tank sniper in this deck might be useful. I'm just not sure. Yeah, we got the Hornet over here. The question is, which plane do we take out? The F4 Phantom 2 is very, very good against infantry and just denial of enemy region control. The Nighthawk is pretty much a mandatory unit. And since he doesn't have any long-range artillery like howitzers, he does of course have those LAVMs, so he can deploy some mortars. By the way, you don't need these at hardened. Now that I see that, you need those at trained. Yeah, in this case I would swap out the Phantom 2s and just go with these Hornets because they got very, very good AP power. And if you're facing some heavy tanks, you can use these guys. So that still leaves us with 1 point. And with that 1 point, I believe I freed up 1 more Humvee. That came from the seals in the recon tab. So now we can deploy that last activation point, and we're going to go with some more Stingers. In this case, I wasn't sure that I could manage to free up the other Humvee. So now we could go with either a 7 or a 4-point card, or you could say, well, I want both of these Stingers at 4, so at veteran. In this case, I'm going to go in the middle ground and have 1 of 4 and 1 of 7. So that you could, you could start using the Stinger C at 4, so the veteran. If you run out of those, you got a reserve of 7 at hardened. Let's see, in the Naval tab, we got mostly anti-ship capability. Tomcats, Seabusters, Fayettes, Oliver Hazard Perrys, and Donghaes. These Donghaes don't have any Seawiz. Oliver Hazard Perrys have medium Seawiz and Fayettes as well. I'm not sure exactly what he wants with the Donghaes here. Probably anti-air defense with the dual Amerlek 30s. But I don't think that these really complement the other ships here very well. So in this case I would go with a different escort ship. I'm a bit hanging between Chamseries or Pohangs, seeing that he with this setup is trying to take down ships. You could go either way. You could go with the Chamseries and have a bit more Seawiz, or you could go with the Pohangs and have a bit more anti-ship capability in the harpoons. He already has, of course, the Axis sets and the harpoons on the Oliver Hazard Perrys. Yeah, we're going to go with the Chamseries, and we're going to use, seeing as he has 6 ships here, let's go with 8 at hardened. These Perrys, let's see what kind of veterancy they got. They're at rookie, and the Fayettes as well. Yeah, that's good enough. You could go with 2 depending on the situation. I wouldn't recommend elite, but hardened for both of these ships could be an interesting upgrade. So, 60 out of 60 activation points. We got the light rifleman, the Delta Force, more riflemen, Stingers, short range helicopter defense, long range air defense, some artillery, some tanks, a lot of units in recon, more than in infantry. That rarely if ever happens to me. Vehicles with anti-tank capability, a couple helicopters, planes. Yeah, I'm happy with this deck. Let me know what you think of this deck. How would you improve upon it even further? Because there might be something that, some things that I've overlooked, some things that you know about this game that I haven't mentioned in this video. If you do, let me know in the comments below, because there are always additional improvements, and I'm not entirely sure what this deck was designed for, whether we're doing a 10v10 anti-tank choke point or a 2v2 anti-tank choke point. But I think that with this setup, this deck can do both. If you have any other ideas about that, let me know in the comments. If you want me to have a look at your deck, you can send it in via my website. Link to it is in the description below. I look forward to seeing your deck. Just please give me a good description of what you want to do with it. Because the better my idea is of what you want to do with it, the better I can give you feedback on the deck. I might not be able to cover all of the decks sent in because I'm getting a couple to about a dozen every day. So I do need to prioritize one deck over the other. So maybe your deck won't get featured, but I'll still try to give you email feedback if you leave your email address in there. So I hope you liked watching this video. If you did, please hit like beneath the video. If you want more of my videos, subscribe to my channel. And if you think that you have a friend or someone else who can profit or benefit from this video, please share the video. I can use all the exposure you guys can give me, so I look forward to seeing the many views on this video, thanks to you guys. Thanks for watching, see you next time.